Everybody, welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for January 19th, 2021. And first order of business is roll call.
Yeah, so we'll call the roll of commissioners. Commissioner Waters.
Here.
Commissioner Gilmore.
Here.
Commissioner Bernhardt. Commissioner Hay.
Here.
Commissioner Baffa.
Here.
Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Linkowitz.
Here.
So we're all present and have a quorum to conduct today's meeting. I'll ask Margie whether the today's meeting packet has been posted and that we have met our Kansas Open Meeting Act requirements.
Yes, we have, and yes, the packet's been posted.
So that will allow the chair to move on to consideration of the January 5th minutes.
All right. On to the minutes. Do we have a motion for approval?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of January 5th.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded.
Okay, we're going to do roll call for approval of the minutes. Commissioner Waters,
Yes.
Commissioner Gilmore,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay,
Yes.
Commissioner Baffa,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Aye.
Chair Linkowitz.
Aye.
So the minutes from our last meeting on January 5th are approved.
Okay.
We do not have any public hearing items for you today, but we do have a couple of administrative items. And item 3.1 is a request from Lee Hayworth Construction, Bob Hayworth, for a time extension for obtaining approval of a final plat of the proposed Cedar Point Addition residential subdivision. That's a proposed subdivision that's located on the north side of Cedar Ridge Drive between the Grand Prairie Addition and the Briargate Addition. And our ordinance that we have in place essentially gives a developer 12 months from the time that their initial zoning is approved to complete the platting of their property. And so in this particular case, the Planning Commission recommended approval of a zoning change and also approved a preliminary plat. And the City Commission approved the zoning change on first reading, subject to satisfactory platting of the property. And it's been nearly 12 months since that request was initially approved, and no final plat has been submitted. And if you may recall, there's a piece of property, Dustin, if you want to show along the southern border, southeast corner there of the subdivision. That's a former alignment of Cloud Street. When the property was deeded from the Graves Trust to Mr. Hayworth, for reasons unknown, the Graves Trust didn't include that strip of land in what they deeded to Mr. Hayworth, and so that trust has now been dissolved. So essentially it's a little bit like a no man's land, and so Mr. Hayworth and his attorney are pursuing acquiring clear title to that property so it can be dedicated as right-of-way, but they need an additional time to complete that process. So your alternatives this afternoon would be to grant Mr. Hayworth a 6-month time extension to complete the platting process or deny that request. If the request is denied, that would essentially mean that Mr. Hayworth will have lost everything that he has had approved to date and would need to start at square one. Our recommendation is that you grant the requested time extension to allow Mr. Hayworth additional time to obtain clear title to that portion of Cedar Ridge Drive. So staff would be open to any questions that you have, but that is essentially where we're at. It doesn't seem like it was nearly a year ago when we discussed that, but it's almost exactly a year ago when the Planning Commission was discussing that particular piece of property.
Do we have any questions for staff on this?
Dean, I just got one. So the only thing that's really holding this whole application and stuff up is just that little strip in there that Mr. Hayworth's trying to get taken care of.
Yeah, it's a situation where, I mean, the normal course would be if you had an oversight like that, you would go to the previous owner or the owner that did the deeding in the first place. But that particular trust has been dissolved and all the assets have been distributed to the various beneficiaries. So in the trust mind, they don't have any assets. But so we've had a couple meetings with Mr. Hayworth and his attorney, and there's a legal process by which they can obtain title through court, or the other approach they're working on is it's complex because the trust is divided up into sevenths, and there's about 3 or 4 different trustees. So Mr. Hayworth can either get something from each of the 4 trustees, or he can go to district court and get a quiet title action. It's kind of similar to when a railroad right-of-way is abandoned. The way that a property owner that abuts the railroad can get title to that is what's called a quiet title action, where they go to court and the court awards them title. And so they're working on that. It's just has taken some time, and that's the only thing that's preventing them from moving forward with a final plat.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for staff? Is the applicant present at the meeting?
He is not in this particular case.
Okay.
I don't see any problem.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the 6-month extension so that Mr. Hayworth can obtain whatever he needs to complete this transaction.
Okay, and let's just double check. Do we have any members from the public that wish to comment on this issue?
We do not have anybody from the public currently in the
Okay.
meeting.
Then I'd second it.
Okay, sounds good. And while I'm thinking about it, I don't recall, did I ask if the confirmation that Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice has been properly provided?
We did.
We did. We addressed it at the beginning of the.
Okay, my apologies. I just want to make sure we got that covered. So we
Absolutely.
have a motion and it's been seconded.
So we have a motion to grant Mr. Hayworth a 6-month time extension to complete the final platting process. Those in favor, Commissioner Waters,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmore,
Aye.
Commissioner Baffa,
Aye.
Commissioner Olson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Chair Linkowitz.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0. And we'll inform Mr. Hayworth that you've granted his extension.
Sounds good. Looks like we're up to the presentation of 2020 annual report.
So each year, the planning boards are asked to prepare and submit a report of their activities to the city commission, and the city commission is interested in things of how many times you met, the attendance records for and participation of board members, the caseload of what was done, and any priorities or feedback that commissioners might have. I think we would all agree that it was far from a normal year. We had a wide variety of ways in which the meetings were conducted. We had in-person meetings. We had the teleconferencing call-in meetings, which didn't work particularly well. We had meetings at the Tony's Pizza Event Center, and we've had Zoom meetings. So we've had a variety. I think the one thing that struck staff, and I think we had in your table there, was the number of cases that were heard was down compared to the past. And while that may be the case, that was partially made up for by the fact that there were a number of applications and cases for which the Planning Commission conducted multiple hearings. So while the total number of individual cases was not as great, there were still, you met 12 times. 10 of those were regularly scheduled, 2 were special meetings. You had 9 live in-person meetings. You had 2 hybrid meetings with teleconference participation. In December, we went to Zoom, and we had the 2 meetings that you may recall at the Tony's Pizza Event Center, which did allow for public participation with social distancing. You chose not to do or attempt to do the landscaping awards program last year. I think the main thing that we would do is have you focus in and look at the attachments that have your record of attendance and what we have for your current contact information, and just tell us whether you think that is still accurate and up to date. And then we provided you some information about staffing. We are still have a number of positions that have not been filled within the Community Development Services Department. We normally have 3 staff planners. We only have 2 right now. And Sue Klein, who is our Development Services Supervisor, who helped out on a variety of things, retired, and her position has now been filled, but the candidate has not started yet. So just like a number of other operations, we haven't been exactly at full strength. So we have carried over some of the goals from past years into 2021. We didn't go achieve many of those or do anything that was very proactive in 2020. We hope to look to do some of those things in 2021. But if there's goals that you have as commissioners, or priorities, or anything that you want to communicate, or corrections to our contact information or attendance records, this would be the opportunity to do that. And then what happens is, if you were in agreement with our summary of last year's activities, then it would just be a motion to forward your report on to the City Commission.
Thank you, Dean. Do we have any questions for staff on this?
I'd make a motion to forward the report on.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded.
There's a motion from Commissioner Olson, seconded by Commissioner Hay.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of passing this along to the city commission? Commissioner Waters,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmore,
Aye.
Commissioner Bappa,
Aye.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Olson,
Aye.
Chair Linkowitz.
Aye.
And the report has been accepted, and we will pass that on to the city commission. I think the other thing that we noted there was that the makeup of the planning commission is 7 residents from inside the city limits, 2 from outside, but within 3 miles of the city limits. And Commissioners Jackson and Eisenhower were the out-of-city reps, and we haven't had any interest expressed from outside city limit residents. So if you know anybody who lives within 3 miles of the city, but outside the city that you think might be a candidate, you could reach out to them and see if they want to turn in an expression of interest. Actually, I think that and Dustin can confirm that, but we don't have any applications filed for the first meeting in February. And so it's possible that that meeting will not be held, but we're having pre-application meetings with a number of upcoming projects that we anticipate coming forward to the Planning Commission. If you're aware, the Salina County Commission has a contract to purchase some property that's east of North Front Street and south of Pacific as a future Salina County jail site. And they're going to be submitting an application to rezone that property for a law enforcement center and county jail. And so that will be coming before the Planning Commission. And we have a pending application we're working with. If you're familiar with where the new Mocus is, there's a proposal to put in a new Freddy's frozen custard next door to the Mocas on East Crawford. And that will be coming to you in some form, but probably not until your meeting in March. So as it stands right now, I don't think we have items scheduled for you for your first meeting in February, but we do have a number of applications that we're getting prepared to come before the Planning Commission.
So you're talking about March.
I believe that we'll be looking at not having any meetings in February, and most of the things that we're working on are going to end up on your agenda in March.
Thank you, Dean. We'll keep our eyes open for that schedule.
But we'll send out a confirmation on the February meeting, but just giving you a heads up that it doesn't look like we're going to have anything for that. And so I think that's the only other business or future business that we have for you this evening.
Okay. So are we safe to skip to motion to adjourn, or do we need to see if there's anybody from the public?
Check with Dustin to see if we have anybody waiting in the public forum.
We do not have anybody from the public, but if there's somebody watching on YouTube or on TV and they want to log in, we can give them a couple of minutes.
Sure.
The other thing I forgot to mention is that we don't currently have any youth members. The Board of Zoning Appeals has a youth member, but this time the Planning Commission does not have a youth member on board. So we'll we'll keep an eye out for that as well.
Yeah, I don't see anybody from the public interested in speaking at this time.
Okay,
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
okay, we've got a motion. It's been seconded.
All those in favor of adjourning, Commissioner Waters,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmore,
Aye.
Commissioner Bappa,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Olson,
Aye.
Chair Linkowitz.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn has passed.
All right.
Hey,
Meeting adjourned. We'll see you next go around.
Take care.
Thank
Thanks for your
you.
participation.
Yep.
Thanks.
You.
Thank you.